I had to check the date to make sure I get it right. Thursday, November 9th. And as usual, it's a little bit late. It's about 10:45, and I stopped for coffee, and I had to get my Lotto America ticket. I'm confident I'm going to win $4 one of these days, so that'll be nice. But today I got to thinking, you know, last night I got an email from a guy, one of my customers, and he was looking at maybe buying a 2019 or 2020 Goldwing and get rid of his 2005. But now he decided what he's going to do is do what they call the Henry final drive. And what it really is just a different gear ratio. And it drops the RPMs at 70 miles an hour by about 400 RPM, which, you know, I'm this way on it. The thing is, these Goldwings actually run pretty slow on highway speeds. You know, at 70 miles an hour, it's doing about 3,000 RPM. And that's not very fast for a motorcycle. You know, a lot of these smaller bikes are running, you know, 6,000, 7,000 RPM at those speeds, sport bikes especially. And you can hear them when they're flying down the road. And those are 4-cylinders, so they deceive you a little bit. These engines, these 6-cylinders, tend to be pretty busy. And they sound like they're really, you know, running high RPM, but they're not. They're actually running, I think they're geared about right. I'm afraid, you know, if this guy puts this drivetrain in, he might find out it's lacking in power when he needs like a roll-on pass or something. I really don't see a lot of advantage. You know, the big claim is it's more comfortable and the engine's going to last longer, and you know, none of that really holds any water. It's not really, I don't really see big benefits in it. Anyway, this kind of swings me over to a different subject, which is message boards. And I've been on message boards going way back into the 70s. Back when modems were 300 baud, upgraded to 19.2, my computer had turbo. Think about that. It would go from 1 megahertz to 2 by hitting the turbo button. Yeah, I mean, compare that to what we have today. And the message boards were, they called them bulletin boards back then, and it was just text. You know, you'd leave a text message, and then someone would respond, and, you know, like that. And now, you know, you look at modern message boards, and they're not only text, but it's also images and video and smiley faces and all kinds of stuff. Basically the same theory though. It's just users getting together and sharing their experiences and their likes, dislikes, and tips and hints. And normally when I bought a different motorcycle, which was daily, first thing I did is got on the message boards of that particular bike and scoured through some of the postings to see what issues there are and what little corrections can be done and modifications, that kind of stuff. But as a businessman involved in motorsports, I find it's unwise to be involved in message boards. I honestly, there's one that I look at maybe once a month. I very rarely post. If I post twice or 3 times a year, that's pushing it. When you're in business, people look at things differently, and even though you have experience and you know what you're talking about, you can't compete with conspiracy theories. And there are conspiracy theories even with Goldwings. You know, I got into trouble when I did my 2 videos on the magic red dot, which people think is a balancing dot and that it has to line up with the valve stem. And I proved scientifically that it's BS, that dot is nothing more than an inspection marker to indicate that the tire had passed a checkpoint. That's all those dots are for. And I tried to explain it, and I caught heat for that one. So, like I said, you can't compete with conspiracy theories. I just had a guy come in here yesterday, and we somehow got onto a subject, maybe electric cars or something. But he said, you know, if they finally release that 100 mile per gallon carburetor, we wouldn't need all this electric stuff. And I'm thinking, that is a conspiracy theory that goes back to 1945. There is no such thing. And besides, it'd have to be a 100 mile per gallon fuel injection system now. But the guy actually believed there is such a thing, and that the oil companies are hiding it so that they can rip us off with more oil and this kind of stuff. And you know, that's the problem. The good side of message boards is you do get a lot of good information and sources for parts and you know, fancy lights and that kind of stuff. You know, it's kind of nice. But there is a lot of misinformation, and you know, you see where somebody puts 2 drops of Marvel Mystery Oil in their engine, and they can't believe how much better it shifts and runs and all this. And you know, you see all this wild stuff, changing oil and it shifts better, which is an impossible
Motion
thing.
detected at your front door.
People keep running by my front door. I actually have a Ring camera on my front door at home, so that's what that is. Every time the mailman comes or something, or a car drives by, or you know, a chimpanzee jumps on the roof, I get a notification. But anyway, I guess, you know, I scour through the message boards a little bit when I'm bored, and the same old conspiracy things are still there. And yeah, it's kind of weird. I guess my advice to people is, you know, if it seems like it's magic and stuff, you might want to think about it. The manufacturers have done a really good job, especially on the Goldwing. I mean, there isn't much on the Goldwing that I would fault, although on 100 here, anti-dive valve was stuck. I would say over 50% of the bikes I get in here, anti-dive is definitely stuck. And it wasn't disabled. That would be a good thing, you know, and that goes up on the message board once in a while to disable the anti-dive. And of course, there's always someone who's going to say you're all going to die and the motor will blow up and all this if you do it, but you want to do it. You want to. The anti-dive is kind of like the displacement on demand. You're much better off without it. And you don't really notice any ride difference, nothing. It just rides better, really. So anyway, you know, that's kind of my take on message boards. They kind of this way on. I started a board way back, God, this had to be in the 70s, 80s maybe, but back in the 80s. I didn't really start it, another guy started it, and I kind of worked on it a little bit. And it was a Yamaha XJ1100 message board. And I actually invented a tool called the YIX tool. And YIX is Yamaha Induction Control System, is what that stands for. And what it is just a passage behind the 4 intakes that allows them to share the vacuum. So it balances out any minor differences in the carburetors at low speed. Well, if you're going to sync your carbs, you have to block that passages, all those passages, or you're not going to get a good reading per intake. So I invented a tool that...
detected at your front door.
Stop that. Invented a tool that slides in and you tighten up a wing nut and it would expand these little rubber pieces which would block off all those passages. And then you can sync them up and you know, that kind of thing. So I did some of that kind of stuff with that board. And anyway, I guess I should look at the message boards and see what's the newest thing, but I just don't.